All right, guys, welcome back to our podcast. As you can see,
Welcome.
we do have on the same clothes from the last podcast. But you know what? This is a part two.
Part two.
We could not get away from this. We had to actually just keep talking about it while we were in it. We're not about to change clothes. This is real life, guys. This is what
That's
happened.
right.
We're glad you're back to hear about slavery, episode 2. We already did the formalities in episode 1. We love y'all. We thank y'all. As always, subscribe, like, share, and comment. Because we want you to hear our stories. We want you to share. We want people to be free. But we're just about to get right back into it. So, Keisha, throw us back into it, right where you left off. Something about being angry.
Yes, I was mad. Yeah, so we left off when I was talking about, me having my children, after I had children, that's when the anger started to set in. They said it's a thin line between love and hate. It's thin, it's real thin. Because that love I had once I started having children began to turn into hate because, you start thinking about, you know, your children and you look at them and you're like, well, how I don't feel like I could ever walk away from my children.
Yeah.
And then you think about the person who walked away from you. And these feelings of resentment and anger just started building.
Yeah.
And it got to the point that I wrote her a letter out of my anger. Yeah. And it was a letter out of my slavery. At the time that I wrote it, I felt like I was justified in writing the letter. In the letter, I told her that I never wanted anything to do with her ever again. I didn't want her in my life. I didn't want her in my children's life. I told her she was a horrible mother and that, I
Cuss too?
look,
Did you cuss?
huh?
Did you
No, I tried to keep it sanctified.
Tearing her up without cussing.
Yeah, I tried to keep it sanctified. I tried to keep it with the Lord. I didn't cuss her out, but I just told her, I didn't want her in my life, all of that, And when I wrote the letter, the thing is, I was trying to cut deep. I was
You was trying to hurt her like you felt you hurt.
Yes, I had the knife in my hand. The knife was the pen, and I was just digging it in. And I said I wrote it with the Lord, but the enemy was in there a little bit because he was like, write this. And I was like, ooh, that's good. I'm gonna write that too. I don't ever want to see you ever again. Yeah, so I wrote the letter and I am not sure how I made sure she got this one, but I did. I made sure
Now,
that
how old were you when you wrote this letter? You had children. You said you had your kids at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now pause because I guess I remember before this the non-angry Keisha.
Yeah.
Because you came over to her house like on the Thanksgiving or something.
That was when I was in college. Yep.
Yeah, you were at Eastern, right?
Yeah. That was
And
the
I was like,
non-angry Keisha. That
got
was
you
Keisha.
because I was trying to put that timeline together. Like, you okay? So I met you prior to not met you. That event, I already knew her, but that event at the house because I was like, oh, she was at the house. She must have. They must, be on this journey of whatever. And then you're like, girl, I wrote a letter too.
Yeah, and then at that point, she was married to John.
Yeah.
So, and I did feel after that point that he was a big reason that we were there. He was the coming together of it. Yeah, but that was non-angry Keisha.
May his soul rest. He was a really good.
I know. He was awesome. He was.
That was her happiest time of her entire life. I'll tell you that. She was super happy, and so
yes, she looked like it when she came and visited in college.
But you put everything possible in this letter that you
did
to destroy her, basically.
Yes, because I wanted her to feel how she had made me feel, and I didn't think that she did. So I felt like it was my job to make sure. Yeah.
So you thought she was going along like I got
do.
I'm happy.
Sunshines and roses
for me. Okay. Mm,
That's how I felt, like, she was just going on, her life was happy,
wow.
and, I wrote the letter,
Mm,
and I had no regrets, it just was what it was, so then, just having kids, living my life and still being angry,
mm,
I started playing I had this mind game going within funny thing is that the game was only with myself, but I felt like I was playing this game with her. I had this game that I was playing, and the game was to be the better mother.
mm,
So in my head, I'm doing things for my children, and I'm thinking, ha ha, nana nana boo boo,
wow.
I'm doing better than you. Yes. So I'm just thinking this going through life, raising my children. But I have this mind game, this constant mind game going on because I felt like I had something to prove to
Mm,
her. Like, you weren't a
mm,
mother, you weren't a great mother,
mm,
but I'm going to show you up.
mm,
And I'm going to be a great mother. And it's thinking back on it. It's funny because it was a game that I was playing that
mm.
she didn't even know I was playing. So
Right.
I'm just playing myself.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I think about it because the way that the enemy works is you did have a mother who took care of you. It
I
wasn't your
did.
biological mother.
Mhm.
You had a mother. So all the things that you were doing was because
Mhm.
somebody did actually mother and take care of you. So you
Yep.
did have an example, but it shows us that like we can have things in our lives that
Mhm.
give us everything we need. And if it's not coming from a specific person, we
Yep.
will, I know this to be personally true, okay?
Yeah.
My cousins know. They know.
Yeah.
When you know, if it's not coming from the person that you want it to come from,
Mhm.
you don't even recognize it as happening at all. So here
Yep.
you thinking, oh, you weren't a good mother. I didn't have a good mother. This is her thought.
Yep.
I didn't have a good mother. I didn't have somebody who raised me. Meanwhile, she had an excellent mother who
My
raised,
mother was
who loved her,
we
who took care of her, and she compartmentalized that. She was
Yep.
able to compartmentalize her mother who raised her
Mhm.
gave her and love. And even to
Yeah.
this day, like she's her mom.
Mhm.
I call her Aunt Kathy. Like she's my aunt. Her dad's still my uncle. Great mother. You
Yep.
know, always took care of them, never treated them differently. She had that mother, but she was still compartmentalizing her biological mother as the example of what she missed out on when she
Yeah.
everything that she needed. Interesting. That's the enemy though. That's how he works.
That's exactly how he works. And he had me. I was playing the game.
Mhm.
I was playing the game for so long. And then the funny thing is that I felt within myself, I truly felt, and this sounds funny now, but I truly felt that God was like, Keisha, you're justified in hating this one person.
You didn't
And
know
if you,
Jesus.
yeah, like God said, okay, I'm gonna give you a pass on this one. You can hate her and you can still make it to heaven and you be good.
Ooh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he gave me
Forgive
a pass.
you,
A
hate
forgiveness pass, a
you,
non-forgiveness
forgive.
pass. Mhm.
Wow.
Yes. So, once he revealed to me that that was not the case, once he revealed it to me, I was, well, doggone it, God. Like, you could have told me this a long time ago.
Well, he did.
He did, but I
You
wasn't
grew up in the
listening.
church and you heard
I
the
know.
scripture that says that if you did not forgive your brother, then I cannot and will not forgive you. And
Yeah, he did. He said it. I just thought that that scripture was minus me. It had
mm,
a clause that said minus
yeah,
Keisha
you were the exception for
to the
this
rule for
specifically.
this.
You didn't apply it
Yes.
to any other part of your life.
Mhm.
Like if somebody
Just
could hurt you this much, right? And let's
mhm.
qualify that. Like you think the one person who's
Mhm.
supposed to love you unconditionally, take you in, what the two people, your parents,
Yes.
the mother, this who, we always hear mothers have this natural, just
Yes.
inclination,
Instinct.
natural
Mhm.
instinct, this natural draw to their children. You're thinking like this one person, since this was supposed to happen to me and it
And
did
it
happen,
didn't.
then
Yep.
that means I get a pass because this was
Yep.
supposed to happen and it didn't.
Yep.
Interesting.
Mhm. I
Wow.
did. Yes.
But you said
Um,
wrong.
yes, he told me I was wrong. He said, yeah. So then, once he started telling me I was wrong, I was like, okay, so
So okay, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you again, but how
yes,
did he tell you? Like, were you in prayer?
I was in prayer.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, so the Holy
Hmm.
Spirit was just revealing these things unto you.
Yes, in prayer.
Yeah,
And it wasn't just a one-time thing. He had to tell me multiple times because, I heard it once and I'm like, that wasn't God. That was just me.
yeah.
So,
Now, where are you at in your life at this point too? Because you were like in college, and then you had your children, and then like
so by this time I am a single mother
okay,
with 3 children living in North Carolina, actually going through some depression.
okay,
And I'm trying to pray this thing off of me. And yeah, that is a podcast for a different day.
okay.
But mhm,
We'll take it.
uh, I know, right? So I'm in prayer, trying to pray the depression off and just pat my past, my failed marriage, and pray all these things off. And that's when he revealed it to me. So
Yeah,
with in praying for to forgive, my ex-husband, and praying to forgive myself for things that I've done, he's like, well, how, you want me to forgive you and
mm,
you can't even forgive. It says, the Bible does says that he forgives our debts as we forgive our debtors.
yeah.
And that is really what got me, is God forgives us the way we forgive others.
Mm,
And I was like, ooh,
yeah,
you know, how can I want you to forgive me for the things I've done in my past
yeah.
when I can't forgive her or others for what they've done? And we're all human, we all make mistakes.
Mm,
So, that's how he began to work with me. And, I just had to pray about it. I
yeah,
had to continually be in prayer about the situation. And I will say that I did eventually become free from it. Shaba, I have let it go because I did realize,
yeah,
one, that she did have a past,
yeah.
and that she was, in essence, just repeating
Mm,
what she had been taught.
yeah, absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely.
Um, and then I also had to realize, that this is a past.
Right.
This is something that happened in my past and in her past.
Yeah.
And to allow this thing that happened in
Mm,
my past to hold me captive,
mhm.
one, is a form of slavery.
Yeah.
Two, and it's keeping me from
Mm,
moving in my future.
mhm.
Like, if you're always holding on to the past,
Yeah,
how are your hands free to catch what God has for you in your present and in your future? When
yeah,
you're always holding on to the things that happened to you in your past, those are the things you have to let go. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be work. It's going to take, that hard work, just like the slaves,
mm,
once slavery was abolished, like we said in the previous episode, you know, the easy thing for them
yeah,
was to stay slaves. And
yeah,
that's easy. It's easy to not forgive someone. It's easy to hold on to the hurt. It's easy to hold on to the pain.
yeah,
But to let it go is freeing to you. It's freeing to me to
yeah.
no longer live and be playing this mind game with myself.
With yourself. In
A
competition
constant,
with yourself.
yes, a constant competition daily,
Daily. Woo, that is
daily.
exhausting.
Absolutely.
Everything you do, you're like, "Ooh."
Everything.
I'm
Yeah.
like, now
Hmm.
you won though. That like sis, you can just
You won. You already,
no, because you're to your children, you won. Like this, they
yeah.
don't know. They don't even know about this whole situation between
Mm-mm.
your bio mom and you and all this stuff. They're like, thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Just, regular stuff to them.
Hmm.
Interesting.
Like, you fed me today. Oh my gosh.
You're supposed to, right? Like, is
That's
that
what you're
supposed
supposed
to
to do.
happen? Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting. And this is so great. And this is something because like I can see like for a short term, you kind of have like a victim mentality, right?
I did.
And
I
that,
did.
like, when we talk about slavery and how it's easier to kind of stay bound, it's because you lived
Mhm.
it for so long and you
Mhm.
got used to the dysfunction. And so it's like,
Yeah.
if I'm not a victim, and if I'm not, well, if I'm not a victim, let's go with that.
Mhm.
Then who is to blame for where I am? Like,
Yep.
then, because that's what victim mentality is
Yeah.
basically like. It's not being able to take self accountability for, parts of your life of where you are.
Yeah.
Everything is happening to you, and people
Yes.
are doing things to you, and it
Yep.
takes complete accountability out of your hands.
It
Which
does.
and we all know, and look, y'all, some of y'all know I go to therapy every week. I have a wonderful therapist. If you need a therapist, just send me a comment out. We'll private chat. I'm not gonna put my therapist out there just for everybody. She's amazing. Um, but anyways, it's that, what was I saying? The victim mentality, right? And it's
Yes.
like you basically, you get so comfortable in this, and who are you anymore?
Mhm.
Who am I if I'm not this victim? And so one
Yep.
thing that we talk about a lot, because I was like that as well, right? When you have a lot of trauma in your life,
Mhm.
you just get used to being the person, that things are happening to. And
Yep.
so, and being in therapy, and I have grown so much, but it was coming out of that victim mentality to be like, okay, sis, okay, so I just had a birthday, so I just turned 38.
Happy
And
birthday.
yes, and well, by the time you guys see this, Keisha will have already
I
had
will have
it.
had yes.
And so we're gonna happy birthday her
Yay.
too.
40.
Yep,
Mm,
her big 40.
that's right.
So anyways, at this age at 38, girl, how many times over have you made, and that's my therapist, everything that we have done in our life after a certain, is a choice. Like,
That's
so,
right.
you know, my parents got divorced as well. And from
Mhm.
that was some injury. I don't know if you're ready for me to get into my story, or you have some more to add, or,
No, you can go into yours. The
okay.
rest, yeah.
Okay,
Let's
sweet.
get into it.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, so, my parents were divorced.
Mhm.
My parents were married for 17 years, guys. 17 years. You think 17 years, but then actually, I done seen people married for 30 years and 20
And
years.
yeah.
So I was like, okay, I guess 17 isn't. And I'll be married 15 years this year. So I'm excited. I love it. I'm excited about that. But anyways, my parents were married for 17 years. I'm the youngest of four. I have a sister and two brothers, and my sister's the oldest. Two brothers are in between us, and it's four kids within 5 years, so we're all really close in age. And
Mhm.
so, by the time my parents got divorced, I was 12, and my sister was going to be 17 that year. She was 16. Like, we were stair steps. She was 16. My brother was 14, 13, 12. Like, that's how close.
Mhm.
No one's birthday
That's
had
close.
happened yet in the year except for mine. So everyone was turning a year older, but we were still really close. So I was about 12 when my parents got divorced. And when the day that they got divorced, I actually remember the day that they got divorced. So they got divorced like January 30th, 1997. That's
Wow.
either 30th or 31st. But I remember being in
That's deep.
school. I remember being in the sixth grade. I remember sitting in class thinking, huh, my parents are getting divorced right now. Hmm, you know? And so I had already been a higher years. I was already dealing with a lot of anxiety for a kid my age that had
Mhm.
started early. And so with my parents getting a divorce that day, I remember we are gonna go home. When we get home, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna talk about next steps, right? So my middle school was right down the street, just walked home. Eventually, everybody got home from school. My sister and brothers, my sister and oldest brother were in high school, and my brother right above me, he was in the eighth grade, so we came home together.
So
Mhm.
pause. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, question. So you knew that they were going to
yes,
get a divorce that day.
we knew that
How
they were
did
getting divorced.
how did you feel that day?
So
What were your
interesting.
feelings? Mhm.
So my parents were going to get a divorce probably 7 years prior to that.
Okay.
I was 5. And
Mhm.
the only thing I can remember about that is that I remember going to some office and people asking me questions. It was really weird. I can't tell you anything outside of that. And then
Okay.
fast forward to 1997,
Mhm.
and we knew they were getting divorced. At that point, we knew it was the better thing for them to do.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
they were arguing and they just weren't
Yeah.
getting along, and you know, you can see stuff was going on. It just was. It was no longer comfortable to be at home with both of my parents at all, and so no, we didn't want our parents to divorce, or I don't think we understood what it meant for our parents to divorce. Let's say that. So at that point,
Got
we're
it.
like, yeah, yes, go ahead. Like, y'all, you're clearly miserable. You
Yeah.
clearly are
Mhm.
not getting along. I don't know. You cannot come to a place, you know. So they divorced.
Mhm.
And I guess what I thought in my head, divorce was going to be like my parents. My dad just won't live here anymore. And that was just it. I really
Mhm.
had no real outlook. Nobody's that I knew, nobody's parents were divorced except
Yeah.
for like one of my friends' parents, and their parents got along and they still get along to this day. They just make it work. They're cordial. It was just they made it work. So I didn't
That's
know what
good.
I didn't know what was prepared for me because even though your parents got divorced, you had parents still. So I didn't,
Mhm.
you know, I didn't compare my life. I
Yeah.
had nothing really to compare it to because I grew up and see what your life was like.
Yeah.
So when we came home that day, everybody finally got home, everybody except for my dad. And my dad never came home. My dad disappeared. Now, I was about 12, so for me, that time is a little blurry as far as how long it was, but my sister said it was for a while, at least 6 weeks. When I say disappeared, I mean we did not know where he was. Like he fell off the face of the earth. And my dad was a businessman. He generally worked from home. He was a salesman. And so he had a P.O. box. So his uh, business mail would go to his P.O. box and he would send things
Mhm.
out to his P.O. box. So I do remember writing letters to my father, like, where are you? We miss you. You know, I had in my head we were going to come home, we were going to sit down, we were going to discuss what was going to happen. My dad was going to stay maybe, you know, a day or two. You know, we
Mhm.
were going to like work this thing out in the process, and he didn't come back home, and he never came back home as far as like into our home, as you know, after that day.
Yeah.
Um and so eventually he returned, and I remember he took us to Shields Pizza. If you're from like Detroit South area, you know what that is. He took us to Shields Pizza. This was my first time, and it was interesting to me because we didn't go out to eat a lot growing up, like at all.
Mhm.
It was already different, right? Like it
Yeah.
was already different. Like we're going out to get pizza
To
at
eat.
Shields at a place that you know we don't eat out a lot, and here we are
Mhm.
getting getting pizza out on like a random day, like with our father. And so,
Mhm.
um, from that time on, you know, my mom had full custody of us, and my dad, I don't even know how what the actual custody arrangement was. Like, I knew he had some holidays because I know the first Christmas after the divorce, we went to go spend Christmas with him. He was living with one of my aunts at the time. He actually lived with my aunt for years. Like they moved from her house to a condo, so he never had a place. So I never had another home. All I had
Wow.
was my mom's home, wherever we were. And I remember when the anger began to set in. And the anger set in because my dad was not present. You know, imagine going every day. Now, Keisha was 3 or 4 or something when her mom left. And so her memories aren't as vivid. You know, it wasn't,
Yeah.
you know, you
Mhm.
know so much. My cousin Shell, she has more memories, but 12, you know, that
Yes, you have.
it's
Yeah.
trips and it's family gatherings and it's Christmases and it's tons of memories. And so it's sickness, it's being at church together, it's a lot of things. And so
Mhm.
when um when they divorced, I just didn't see him often. You know, he did not call. You know, I went from seeing my father every single day, and he worked from home, so he was home, you know,
Yeah.
uh, every single day to like here and there. And as I got older and older, it was like a few times a year. And you would think, well, did he move out of state? And if you're from this area, Detroit, so he stayed in Detroit. We probably stayed about 2 miles apart initially. We stayed off of Plymouth. He stayed off of Schoolcraft, y'all. So that's like a mile and a half, to be honest. And then
Mhm.
eventually he and my aunt moved to Southfield, but it still wasn't far. Southfield and Detroit, and we were like West Side Detroit, like Plymouth, Southfield Freeway. You from Detroit, you know what I'm talking about. And my dad stayed like off of Losser, not Lasher, Losser. And
People say it wrong.
yeah, 90 mile. There's this whole debate about Lasher Losser thing. We ain't gonna get into that.
Yeah.
Everything. But I remember I was 14 and my mom was like, either my dad had called or something for something with her. And she's like, your dad is on the phone. I was like, I don't want to talk to him. And she was like, you need to talk to him. And I was like, I don't need to talk to him. And so she's like, he's on the phone. He wants to speak to you. But I remember being so angry. I remember even another time saying, you should call your dad. I said, I should not call him. He should call me. I'm his child.
Mhm.
I shouldn't be calling him. That doesn't even make sense to me. Like at this point, I'm 14, I'm in high school, I'm smart enough to know, like, I'm still your kid. Like,
Yeah.
you're not around. You're not taking care of us. I don't care how much child support you pay, you're missing. And so
Yes.
I was angry. I was angry for years. I felt abandoned. Rejection began to set in. I didn't know who I was.
Mhm.
My mom, she worked a lot. People started living with us. We were so unstable. And that's what fueled that anger, right? Like we're so unstable and you're not even checking on us. Like I need shoes and clothes and things like necessities. And my mom is working two jobs because she was a stay-at-home mom all while my parents were married for the most part. So I
Wow.
had a high school education. I remember there were days where I didn't see my mom the whole day because she went from one job. And before she could get home, I went to school. And before I can get back from school, she had went to the other job. And before, before I woke up, she was at another job. She was
So during this time, like, was someone living with you, or were you
yes.
just
So
home alone, or
my god
okay,
sister had moved in with us,
okay.
and her daughter, and then Aunt
Mhm.
Jackie and Shamara moved in with us. We had
Okay.
about 9 people living in one house with one bathroom, guys. And so when people be
No
like,
way.
many of us in one bathroom, it was 9 of us in one bathroom. We made it work. Okay, we made that house work. And that's what and at the same time, now I'm 12, 13, 14. So we don't actually need anybody to be at the home with us. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
old enough to be at home by ourselves. I remember I started cooking, like cooking at 13. That's why I can cook now. I started frying chicken at 13. I was just telling a friend the other day when I fried the
Mhm.
chicken and it was all crispy and looking good. And I went to open it and it was bloody inside. And I was like, oh, I threw right back in that. I threw right back in the oil. Like, hey, took you a little bit longer, but I learned how to cook. Um, but we were unstable after my ninth grade year. In high school, I had a different address every single year in high school. So in ninth
Wow.
grade, I was on Metatol. In 10th grade, I was on Indiana and Schoolcraft. In 11th grade, I lived on Mansfield, 2 streets over from where I grew up my whole life with my mom's godmother, who basically saved my life that year. She saved my life. I was a kid that year for the first time in like a while. I was a kid. I didn't have to worry about anything. I didn't have to worry about like she washed my clothes, she cooked dinner every day. When my
That's
mom was
awesome.
working and going, she just, you're tired. You can't, and your kids are teenagers, you're old enough to kind of start doing some of these things on your own. But being the youngest,
Mhm.
I know those things younger than all of my other siblings did.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I know we're running out of time here, but I did have a question for you. So, okay, you're in a different address these 4 years.
Yes.
Did that mean a different school, or
No.
were you somehow able?
So somehow I was still in my school district. So first of all, my first
Okay.
house wasn't in my school district. I went to Mackenzie High School, home of the Stags. Thank you. Stagnation, Stag for life. But my actual school was Cody, and I was like, I ain't going to Cody. I don't care what happens. I'm not going to Cody. And so that was from some of my trauma where I didn't go to Cody. It's because I had to
Mhm.
transfer experience there when I was in 3rd grade, and I never told anybody that's why I didn't wanna go. I held that in, until now. Well, some people know, but not everyone knows. That's why I didn't wanna go to Cody, so and my cousin was there, my brothers were there, but I was like, "No." I got accepted to Cass Tech. I say it like that because, technicians are technicians, but my mom did not allow me to go. I did try to appeal to get into Renaissance, which is another school people from Detroit really know. And I was not able to appeal, so I got into McKenzie. When I moved to the Indiana Street, I was in the district for my school. So
Got it.
out, and then this district zone, let's just say that. And then when I
Mhm.
moved back, I was only 2 streets away, so I just took one bus to school. And Detroit Public, well, Michigan is a choice school state, so
Mhm.
as long as they have room for you, DPS. I lived in the city. I went to DPS. So even my senior year, guys, I moved to Southfield. Now Southfield is a whole different city. The other 3 addresses, I was in Detroit. I was in Southfield, almost Farmington, in my senior year. And in that year, my sister moved back home from U of M. She graduated from U of M. She moved back home, and she would take my mom to work in Troy. And
Ooh.
this is pretty far in Troy.
Uh-huh.
We lived in Southfield. Then she would take me to school in Detroit, and then she would go home. I mean, go to Southfield and work. Then my aunt Jackie would pick me up from school, take me home, and then go to her job. Now, my dad, remember I told you my dad moved to Southfield. I don't know if you at the beginning I said after he moved to Detroit, he moved to Southfield, like
You
lost
did
it
say that.
in Mount
Mhm.
Sinai. We were only probably 10 minutes apart by the time I moved to Southfield. No one, he did not offer to take me to school. I could have had a ride to and from school. No one had to do all of that.
And
We
was he still working from home at this time?
always worked from home.
Oh, wow.
And so, these years of just going without, that was a really big
Mhm.
for me. I rarely ever asked my mother for anything because I could see that we just did not have it. And I was
Yeah.
in 12th grade, and it dawned on me. I was just like, it was like a light bulb. I was like, oh my God, we're poor. Oh, okay.
I get it.
I get it. Like, you're not withholding from me. Like,
Mhm.
you just don't have it. Like, we're poor.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we're poor. And it was that. But that was from
Mhm.
my mom. Like, okay, she's
Yeah.
working, she's doing everything she can. She's never let us go without a roof over our head, food in our stomachs, clothes on our back. She kept us in the church. She gave us a foundation. She lived a life before the Lord. You know,
Mhm.
she did what she was supposed to do during this time. But my dad I felt like he was just living a life. He's a single man. He never provided a second home for us. So when we went to spend like Father's Day with him, it was dreadful. My aunt was not bad to us or anything, but we just didn't have a place, going
Yeah.
to their townhome, their 2-bedroom townhome, and just feeling like a visitor all the
Did
time.
did he ever give a reason as to why he was not there? Was there ever
When we fast forward, yeah. So, I mean, if you want
Okay.
to fast forward, I mean, we can fast forward. It took a while before we got there, but in my, I'll say, because these conversations have happened multiple times, right?
Okay.
Eventually, I'll say before I get there, I got to college, I met my husband,
Mhm.
and I remember talking to my husband, and he was just like, I don't like this thing between you and your father. I'm going to pray about this. And I was like, all right, whatever. You can pray. I don't care. Cause I had told him, like, I don't have a relationship with my father like that. And I don't need one. Like, it is what it is.
Mhm.
It's gone, so it is what it is. I'm fine. And he just did not like that. Well, he had a 2-parent home. He was very close to his parents. He couldn't fathom how I could not have a relationship with my father. And so, he started praying and some things started changing, but we are running out of time. And so we have to wrap it up in part 3, this bad boy.
Part 3.
Look, it's getting good.
Guys,
It's good for me, but this is
it's
a
good
part
for me
3.
too.
So Keisha, if you could just wrap us up for this one today.
Yes. So I am going to say to you all, first, thank you for watching. And do come back for part 3. It's the same day for us, but it's different for you guys. And we're sorry to make you wait, but we just had to. So we would like for you to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Generation Free LYD. The LYD stands for Love You Deep. And that we do. We do love you deep. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.